Andris, welcome to R4E. I appreciate you joining today and excited to share your story with my audience. I'm a huge fan of yours and what you're doing at Baking Steel. Came across your platform at some point over the last couple of years, and I really don't exactly remember when it was, but anyone that knows me knows that I absolutely love pizza. I'm a pizza fiend, and I'm sure the amazing Instagram algorithm popped Baking Steel up on my page, and I came across you all. But I'm really thrilled to be able to have you on the show today to share your story. But before we dive in, I'd love to understand what your walk-up song is and why.
Oh man, it's funny. Well, I go with anything Elvis. It's funny. I did a Kickstarter 10 years ago, call it, and man, Elvis was like the triple threat, right? He could sing, he could dance, he could act, and in essence, he was fearless. And doing a Kickstarter, man, I was really scared. It took me like a couple of months to hit the go button, but when I finally did, it was a Thursday morning. I remember cranking Elvis on my way to the office that day. It's like, let's go. Regardless of what happens, I'm giving this a shot, and Elvis is by my side.
I love it. I know my dad and brother are big Elvis fans. They have a joke about it. So, well, look, like I said, thrilled to have you on the show. Baking Steel is unbelievable, and I'd love to know how you got to where you are today. But you mentioned before we got started your Kickstarter, you mentioned your corporate job and kind of how you were in that rut of 9 to 5. But maybe we take a step back. You're from the Boston area, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan now. So maybe for those of you who don't know you or the Baking Steel platform, give us a quick Andris in a nutshell. And
love to. Thanks, Arjan. I'd love to. I was, in my 20s and after college, and I college for a couple of years and left and studied culinary arts, restaurant management. Loved the vibes in restaurants. Just really fun, exciting. I had the hopes and dreams of maybe opening up a place one day. So I traveled around quite a bit and learned both front and back end of a restaurant, which would mean, management to bartending to even being a chef. I went to culinary school and I found I really had a passion for the back end. My last culinary adventure professionally was with a chef in Boston. His name was Todd English, celebrity chef. Guy was amazing. And funny how I got the job. I was out in LA, came back to Boston, and was teaching tennis at this club. And I met, I was in my 20s. I thought I was a hot shot. And I had sent Todd like 50 resumes, I didn't get a phone call back. And I was like, man, I can't believe it, my resume, but it was like, who right? And so I come back from Los Angeles and I'm teaching tennis. This older woman's like, you should meet my son-in-law. And I'm like, whatever, lady, right? I'm like too cool for school at this point. This is like early summer. By the end of the summer, she's like, you want to meet my son-in-law? I'm like, sure, I'd love to. What's his name? She's like, Todd English. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. So literally the next week I'm in his Figs restaurant. I have the connection now. I'm in his Figs restaurant, slinging pizzas with him. And he hires me to sling pizzas at Figs. And Figs, you have Figs and Olives. Figs had just opened up big Roman style pizzas. And I'm like, pizza? I'm like, whatever, sure. I got my foot in the door, which is all I really wanted to do. And I just fell in love with pizza and working there was unbelievable. And there was such a great opportunity because I had a really great resume. I was a big numbers guy. I was a big food guy. And so what I did was I helped bridge the gap between the creative and the management, if you will. Kind of on my own, I kind of did a side hustle inside of his restaurants. And in any case, he loved it. He loved what I was doing. And I moved over to Olives and then on his management team. And it was an incredible experience for a couple of years. But then I really started diving into numbers. And man, I know a lot of your listeners work in restaurants. It's a tough business. And my best example being in Boston was a Saturday night, we might do 30 grand in revenues, a big night for us. Throw in a snowstorm and you're looking at $5,000 in revenues. And in a restaurant, it's almost impossible to make those up in the next 4 or 5 days, right? So I'm looking at this as a guy, I'm like, I'm not taught in the kitchen. I'm like, holy shit, what a tough business. So I took a time out and I my dad's an entrepreneur. I never thought I'd be back there with my dad's business. I worked there since the time I was 10. I started out welding and sweeping floors and all these cool things. Loved the machinery. There I was going back to work with my dad, closer to 30 years old. And he had a really cool business. I didn't think so at the time, but he made products out of steel for Caterpillar, John Deere, these mammoth companies. My brother was there. We had like 20 other guys at the time. I'm like, you know what? Geez, my dad has actually something really cool here. What a really cool business. My perspective had changed, right? And I've been doing that for the last 15 years, working with my dad. Our customers, Caterpillar, the big guys. And I didn't love it. I liked it. I liked connecting with family, but it wasn't like my passion. I got married. I had a nice home. I got paid really well. But it just, something was missing. I had a 4-year-old son who was now kind of figuring out, hey, Dad, where do you go every day? And I just, for the life of me, I remember those conversations. It was more like by myself, thinking in retrospect, like, I didn't really love what I did. And how do I explain to my son that? And that really just hit home with me. And so this is 2000, like 9-ish, 8-ish. And I'm like, what else can I think of? So I started doing a lot of yoga, reading and writing, journaling, everything you can name about. And I just wanted to find something to show my passion, something I could show my kids, I could be passionate about every day. And man, 2011 comes along and I read some food science about steel and pizza. And I'm like, holy shit, no fucking way. I went out to it was in the Wall Street Journal, an article about the modernist cuisine book. And I ran out to my plant, brought some steel back home that weekend. And my wife's like, what are you doing with that piece of steel? Literally, I brought it home like next to my computer bag. And she's like, I said, I'm making a piece of pizza. I'm making pizza on the steel. And she's like, I'm not going to eat it. And anyway, I made pizza. And anybody who makes pizza at home, any of your listeners, any cooks here, we struggle with a crispy crust in a home oven. And for the first time, and I made dough that Sunday, and I timed it for some reason. It was about 7-minute pizza. And it was crispy. For the first time ever, I had made a crispy pizza. And I had all Todd's recipes. I could recreate them. I always thought you needed a wood-fired oven. And so that was my moment was unbelievable. I went back to my office on Monday. I told my brother and my dad to sit down. I have a new product launch, a new product idea for them. And they basically told me to take a hike. Like, how the hell are we going to sell this thing? This is 2012, like before,
Right.
The internet was just coming out, and we were a construction business, essentially, selling to these big dogs. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. How the hell are you going to sell this thing? So I shelved it a year, almost a year, didn't do anything. Horrified. I listened to them. I didn't trust my gut. I was like, you're right. I can't do this. We all struggle. We all have these amazing ideas, and we struggled. And this one would not go away. And I've had other small things I've started before inside of this one, though, just would not go away. So anyway, cue the Rocky music. I started making some prototypes with the team. I had, my dad had $1 million worth of equipment that could make this thing. I had it designed in my head. We started making some, and I started giving them to my chef friends, just giving them away. And guess what? The feedback they would give me was the same feedback I was getting. So I was pumped, was excited. I still didn't know how to get these out into the marketplace, but I thought if I willed it, I could sell 50 a month, and I would have a side hustle inside the family business. Life would be good again. And I'm blabbling on here, but we go on to Kickstarter in 2012 with the goal of raising $3,000. This is before Kickstarter really blew up. I thought, my intuition wise, I could create about $6,000 or $7,000 in revenues. We could pre-sell 100 units, and I'd be like, boom, golden. And fast forward, in 30 days, we ended up selling 500 units, raised 40 grand. And now everyone's looking at me differently. Hey, maybe he does have something here. And the beauty of my dad, they were on board right away. They, in fact, helped me figure out how we can make these things. And we were able to fulfill our Kickstarter right away, 2012, like 2 months later, which is very fast for Kickstarter. And yeah, the rest is history. I've been doing this since then. And my side hustle of 50 units a month turned into much more than that right away. And fast track to like 2018, I spun off from my family business and created a baking steel company. My dad now and my brother makes the baking steel. So I am in turn a customer of theirs. And I think last year I surpassed Caterpillar as their #1 guy, which is amazing. So I'm a big customer of theirs now. And here we are in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a couple of years later, setting up shop all over again. It's great.
I mean, that was it was an incredible synopsis. And that's exactly what I want out of these conversations. And I really
love it.
A thorough breakdown. So let's jump in there. So rewinding back to your early 20s, you're in LA, you come back to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
How regularly do you think about those tennis lessons that you were giving when the old lady comes up to you to have you meet her son-in-law, and it just happens to be? Did you ever talk to Todd about the fact that you're like, hey, I had 50 resumes for you, but you never picked up the phone?
I totally, I did. On my early days, ironically, it was funny. He loved tennis. We became pretty good friends, like right out of the gates. And in fact, I remember it was great because he would take me out of the office and we'd go play tennis, and we became pretty good friends. It was amazing, an experience. And, it kind of, a lot of things to take away from that was, I still think about that moment a lot. My initial introduction to her, I kind of was I don't know, too young to connect anything. I didn't blow her off. I was just like, whatever kind of moment, right? And I was there. I was polite to her, and then I just remember towards the end, my jaw dropped. Like, holy smokes! Like literally, at the time, all the celebrity chefs, there was a few, maybe 3 or 4 in Boston at the time. He was the one guy I wanted to work for some reason. I don't know why. Just the one guy. I was trying to manifest it, and I couldn't believe I couldn't do it. The resumes, I had a pretty hot resume for a young guy and good experience, but I think after working there, they probably just got thrown away. Because they were too busy to look at them, right?
That's crazy. And the other interesting thing about that too is, and I've talked about this on other episodes, is this idea of you're trying so hard, you're in this state of resistance almost with the universe or whatever it is, that you're not able to get in front of Todd. And then finally, when you're least expecting it, when you're in that flow state, it just comes to you.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're right, totally. And how I landed that job was amazing. And yeah, I mean, if you think about all the things that came together, but with the goal in mind, you're right. The thing that I really, really wanted to do was to work with Todd. It was just in there. And yeah, I kind of surrendered, I guess, right? Is how you look at it. I surrendered to it. And eventually, boom, there it comes, right? I'm literally slinging. I remember the first day I was in there. It was like a Tuesday night, I think, of just making pizzas with him. I couldn't believe it. This is amazing. Making, by the way, $12 an hour. I didn't care. I'm in, it's like, let's go.
And then for someone that had a pretty substantial culinary background and training, you mentioned there was, you said something along the lines of, they had me slinging pizzas. Did you feel at any point this isn't living up to all my training, all my practice, I'm just doing pizza? Again, for me, I love
I did. Oh, totally. Yeah, I love pizza. I love pizza, but I almost, I didn't care. In fact, when I tasted the pizza and the passion that went into making them, I kind of flipped pretty quick. And then the pastas and the chefs that were this woman, Sarah Jenkins, who's phenomenal chef. She's in New York now. Just incredible experience. And all the people I met in that era were just phenomenal. So some really great talent.
And then, so that was your experience in the back of the kitchen, or back of the office, back of the kitchen. Then you had some time in the management side of it as well. Coming out of the great financial crisis, having a young kid at home, how did you make that leap from? And then I guess at that point you were also back working in the family business. How'd you make that leap of faith to start out putting the pizza steels together? Was that scary for you at all, or what was your headspace?
Yeah, it was horrifying. It was horrifying. And one, no one believed it in the beginning, right? And so I kind of, I believed in it, but I got a little doubt. I'm like, And, the economy is just starting to come back. We were slammed at Stoughton Steel manufacturing our products. And there was, at the time, like, no way we could do this. So I believed them. So I was just, again, horrified. It wasn't until, it was just one of those things. It was in the front of my brain. I literally could not, I would lose sleep over it. I was like, we all have ideas, and you gotta take the leap and take the chance. I said to myself, even though I was listening to Elvis driving in on Kickstarter, I was like, you know what? At least I'm giving this a shot. I was really proud of myself, regardless of what happened. I thought potentially I was going to get a 0 on the board, and $3,000 raised, by the way, it shows you my level of confidence. Even back then, it wasn't a lot, but it was more like I knew if I hit that target, I would forever be on Kickstarter. I think I still am today. I'm just deep, right? But that was, again, my highest number was, I was thinking maybe 6,000 or 7,000. That's it. We hit 3, by the way, in 24 hours. So I was pretty pumped about that.
That's unbelievable. And then, so your relationship with Todd through that time, so you're still working there. How did that relationship change as you were starting to kind of spin off into your own venture? Are you guys still close to this day? What's that relationship like?
Well, I haven't talked to Todd in like 10 plus years. Played golf with him a few times afterward, but I don't forget, I was at Stoughton Steel for 15 years. So there was a gap where I wasn't making any kind of food besides at home, making pizzas on my pizza stone, using Fig's recipes. There was a big gap where I kind of detached from the restaurant business, and he got so super. He became pretty famous after I left. I don't know if there's a signal there, but yeah, he was phenomenal, and he still is.
Certainly. And then when you're mentioning that 15-year gap, if you will, like we're talking about, I'm sure there's plenty of people who are in your shoes today who are sitting at their desk job. But again, that leap of faith is the hardest part, and that's where you always hear that differentiating factor. What advice you have? What are your thoughts just for anyone out there that's kind of sitting on that idea that they have, or something that's kind of been on the back burner for them? They're trying to take that leap of faith, surrender.
That's a great question. And I guess, like Nike says, just do it. You learn so much by doing versus planning. It was just, you need an action plan, take massive action. And for me, the massive action was make some prototypes, get that feedback out there. I mean, if it came back to me, people, in fact, it did in some instances, but early on, like the initial feedback was phenomenal. Like people really we struggled with crispy pizza, and so the feedback I would get, but my massive action was starting to make these and get them out there without a plan. I didn't know about Kickstarter. In fact, I think I was ready to go live on a website, and then I kept hearing about Kickstarter. I didn't even know what it was. I finally said, you know what, let me try that, because I need to it was just a really nice place to get eyeballs on the idea. Whether I succeeded or not, at least I knew that I tried. And I thought on Kickstarter, to get that many eyeballs from a guy who's in the construction world, this is before Instagram, before all these social channels were out there. I just thought it was a perfect place to go. And little did I know, it really did kickstart us. So my advice is just go do it, and go do something. Do something tomorrow or something today that's going to, it's action. Take action. You have to, because something always leads to something else. And to me, that's the most powerful thing that I know. And it still sticks with me today. I'm not afraid to try things. I fail a lot, but I also don't care. I'm in the arena shooting. I'm in there, right? And that's the big difference. You got a lot of these sideline warriors criticizing all the time, but you know what? I'm in there, and I can't begin. And by the way, I wanted to show my kids something. I was on a mission to show my kids, hey, you can love what you do every day, no matter what. And that to me is the most powerful thing. And so that's still my mantra today. You got to be careful with that with schools. Some things are important too.
Of course.
But that's
no, it's like the Teddy Roosevelt quote about the man in the arena. That's the
That's
most
it. Yeah,
important
that's
part.
exactly right. It is. You're right.
And so
100%.
to
Just
that
get
end,
in there.
absolutely, absolutely. And to that end, you mentioned earlier having other ventures you had started in the past. How did you know that? Was it just a matter of going out and testing and getting the feedback, or how did you know that? And I'd be curious what some of those other ventures were, if you're willing to share.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
how did you know that baking steel was the right path, other than the feedback you were getting from the other chefs?
I felt like the baking steel one. I still think that today. It's like my. I was 44 years old when I created it. It's a product in my entire life is based on my entire life. This product, right? It's like I was in the food world. I was, and I went to work in steel. I read an article that most people are going to read, just glance over. I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me we know some science, though steel conducts energy really well, but man, it transfers energy super fast. And you're telling me I can make pizza with this thing? And by the way, I make pizzas at home. I entertain friends at home. I would have pizza parties where I'd be making pizzas on my stones, and they were pretty good, but they weren't like great. And now I've got this product I can make them great, and I'm still having pizza parties today because I'm so proud of the product we can make with this. So I'm like, I haven't changed one bit. It's incredible what you can do when you put yourself out there and feel passionate about it.
That's a great point though, around your interest, your passion, and your interest, passion, and your hobbies all aligning, and also what happens to be able to help you make a living from it as well. When those,
which is nuts. Yeah,
that's exactly, right. And so it's
right.
So many people are yearning for what you have, in that you found something that your passion and something that can help make you a living have aligned. But to your point earlier, I feel that's to give you your flowers, it's a huge credit to yourself, where you put yourself in the arena, as you mentioned, and you tried different things, you got feedback, you understood what worked, what didn't. And that's the hardest part. It's not, everyone always wants to find, how can I make money doing what I love to do? But people aren't willing to go out there, stick their necks out and try and take action, as you mentioned.
It's really scary. I had a really nice job. I was getting paid to do this, and I was still scared, by the way. I was more like, I'm having egg on my face. But by the way, I still go through this today, whether it be a new product or something, even a blog post or something I'm excited about. People are like, who gives a shit? Well, I'm fine with it now. I don't really, it doesn't bother me anymore. I'm just like, let's go. I'm back tomorrow with something else. I'm gonna keep trying, keep taking action. And that's really the secret. Just take action and do it. I can't emphasize that enough. People just don't want to do it. And I still get criticized today. It's crazy, but just go do it. And who cares? We have one life. It's unbelievable if you really think it through. I'm in my early 50s now, like, holy smokes, this is it, man. So I'm still, I feel like I started this yesterday. I'm still going 100% all in. And I feel like I'm just starting to scratch the surface on what I'm capable of.
I love it. My foot's shaking under the desk. I'm fired up just from hearing you talk about it. And
Awesome.
I feel the same way about this podcast. It's fun to go out and do something and produce something. And to your point, even if it has no tangible value down the road, but you're able to enjoy what you're doing or provide value for someone else, I think that's all that matters. And
it's amazing. And keep doing it, and be consistent. That's one thing I'm also learning. Just be consistent. Just keep going. If you don't quit, you're not going to lose. It's impossible, right? Just keep going, and you'll be amazed at what you can do. And I think we, and even myself, by the way, way underestimate what we can do. And that's what keeps me going every single day. I'm shaking all the time, man. I'm just like, I'm really fired up. I've got massive energy all the time, just ready to go. And sometimes you got to contain it a little bit, and it's really frustrating at times. But if you don't quit, you're not gonna lose, right? So it's that easy.
Maybe it's the pizza diet keeping you fueled, and that's for maybe that's what's keeping you. So maybe as a tangent there, how are you able to balance being an entrepreneur, running your business? Looks like you have a Whoop fitness band on. I love my Whoop as well.
I do. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How do you balance being an entrepreneur, running your business, eating a lot of pizza and staying in shape at your age?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, it's funny when you turn, a couple of things happened for me. When I turned 50, I quit drinking alcohol. I think a couple of months before, it was actually April 1st, 2018, April Fool's Day, Easter Sunday. And I literally quit drinking cold. And I drank too much wine. I loved it. Loved drinking wine. It's just awesome. But as you get older, you drink more. I'm like, fuck, this is a bad trajectory for me. It was the same day that my family and I officially spun off the baking steel. So I had Easter Sunday, April 1st, and I was like, I'm going to quit fucking drinking on the same day because I don't want any excuses. This is my baby, baking steel company. I want to be clear as clear as I can be and just go at it. Alcohol was a really big detriment to me. So I quit drinking. And then I got, as an entrepreneur, I'm learning from school. I'm trying to unlearn everything I learned as a kid. We got to flip-flop it. The most important thing that we can do is take care of ourselves, mentally, physically, right? Spiritually. We got to take care of ourselves because if we don't, like, no one's going to be around, right? You're not going to be around for long. So I'm trying to flip-flop what my days are like. And, my days are mostly about like health, being healthy, health oriented, right? Drinking water, eating the right foods, exercising every day. And then if I can do those things, stretching, maybe yoga. Yoga is a big part of my life when I started out. And then maybe my days become a lot easier. I've done the hard things. I've done the things that I had to do. And now bring it. If the shit hits the fan at work or something, I'm ready for it. I'm not going to have to worry about my hangover or having a drink later on to solve my issues, because we all know that doesn't really solve the issues. So those type of things. So fitness is a huge part of what I do. And I don't probably talk about that enough, but I think it's massive to be successful is to take care of yourself. And in a corporate world, we get stuck in the 9 to 5. Entrepreneurial world, the days are longer, right? You try to they're stretched out because I'm working from my studio here in Grand Rapids today, and some days I don't even come in because I don't need to. I get my workout in, go hang out with my kids, right, or whatever it might be. But fitness first, taking care of yourself, to be an inspiration for your kids, and that's not going to be some guy who's overweight sitting on the couch all day drinking beers. Even if I ran the Andris that doesn't drink is much better than the Andris that does drink. 100%. I will beat that guy any day of the week. So that's, I guess, gets back to my whoop and measuring my health. That's really important.
I love it. No, I wholeheartedly agree with what you outlined there. I know that there's a ton of people that will resonate with that as well. The only other part I'd want to dig in on there is around eating healthy. And so if you just looked at Andris's Instagram account or your Baking Steel account, you're just seeing a bunch of delicious pizza. And whether it's yours or you reposting other people, it'd be hard to tell that you're someone that takes care of yourself. So as it relates to pizza, and this is maybe me selfishly asking and probably for others, what's that process look like for you as you're going to source ingredients, as you're going to prepare a pizza? Do you have set in stone ingredients you always get? Do you have a farmer's market you always go to get the ingredients that you
good
what
question.
What does your pizza making process look like? Just not for a pizza party per se, but just for a typical, hey, I want to have a pizza for lunch or for dinner.
That's great. That's a great, in fact, it's funny because I was in Boston my whole life really, and then came out to Grand Rapids a couple of years ago, and I sourced everything in Boston, mostly at Whole Foods, by the way. Got so dialed in there. So I came out to Grand Rapids. They do have a Whole Foods here, but they don't have the same cheeses, and they don't have the same. The flours are really important. I get my flour from a company called Central Milling, mostly, which is phenomenal. Centralmilling.com. I've dialed in that flour. Organic is really critical to me. Unbleached flours, just because I want the best of the best. So I've met all the other chefs in the country, the best pizza makers, and I kind of replicate what they do in their great restaurants. We can replicate that at home. So we need to ferment our doughs for 1 or 2 or 3 days. I've got all these recipes. I'm happy to link to them if you want to do a follow-up with everyone. I've got all the recipes. The dough, the flour is really important. So we ferment that for 2 or 3 days. Then it's a matter of fact of sauce. To me, it's just crushed tomatoes. There's some really great brands out there. Bianco de Napoli's, you can get them at Whole Foods. So finding the right tomatoes, all we do is season those with a little bit of salt. And then the cheeses, just tasting. You gotta taste how they melt, all these different variables in a home oven at 500 degrees on a baking steel. You just gotta source them, but I've done all that. So I kind of share what I've learned with all my customers to kind of help them out. And if you replicate our dough recipe, the tomatoes, you ferment it for a couple of days in your home oven on a baking steel, you are making pizza as good as it gets. And I mean that. It's phenomenal. And that's what, as a business, as baking steel founder, my job is just to educate people on how to make awesome pizza at home. Not to sell the baking steel, but if you do have that tool, it's, have the right tools, it's going to make it better. And so you make the right dough, the right sauce, the right cheese on a steel, boom, you are creating some amazing experiences for your family and your friends.
I'll be
So
sure to
fun.
I'll be sure to plug the steel and the recipes in the show notes as well. And just double clicking there one bit further, you've made obviously I can't even imagine that you have a count of how many pizzas you made on your baking steels, but do you have a most memorable pizza or maybe favorite pizza that you've made yourself, whether it be at home when you're in the kitchen? And then
that's a great question. Yeah.
Second question of that is
favorite
one out that you've had or favorite pizza that someone else has made for you. I'd love to get your answer.
That's a great question. So my favorite pizza out, I've got a couple, I've got two. I've got, actually I have three. For chefs, Chris Bianco in Arizona, Bianco's Pizzeria, phenomenal.
There's the whole Netflix special about
yes,
that one.
There's a Netflix special, correct. I've always been a huge fan of his since even before baking steel days. He's a legend, and I've had the opportunity to go out to Arizona a bunch of times and over the last like 5 or 6 years, 10 years, say, and met with chef, and he's phenomenal. He loves the baking steel at home, which is great. But that experience in his restaurants, just incredible. I was out there this spring, and I didn't even tell him I was coming out. And one of his restaurants was like a 3-hour wait on a Friday night. The valet kind of laughed at me, he's like, no chance. So we went back, like, I think the next night I found a way in, but it was phenomenal. It's still, my kids devour the pizza, smoked dough a little bit with this wood fired ovens, just awesome flavors, but it's like the ambiance there too. Incredible. Then Tony Gimignani out in San Francisco, again, another legend, one of the best pizza makers in the world, just an encyclopedia of knowledge. Just to sit down with him and have some of his styles, just like this next level, like world class, incredible stuff. So he's been great. And then there's a place in Boston called Pico, which is one of my favorite local spots in Boston that I love. And besides that, it's at home, just again, I think the one trait that all these places have is the ambiance, and making pizza with friends. If I have 6 friends around this island here, we're making pizzas, man, there's nothing better than that. It's like good laughs, right? You're making great food together. You're sharing that experience. That's what we're trying to do with Baking Steel, to share that with people. And man, it gives you goosebumps every time. So we recreate that environment at home. That's our goal.
It's almost like a human, like a primal instinct in a lot of ways to be able to go and share food with people around you and to have a great.
That's true. Yeah.
To have a great tour.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. And like I've made pizza for people that I don't hear a comment sometimes, or good or bad. And sometimes I'm like, what the fuck just happened, man? You gotta tell me if you like it or not, or, because we're so sensitive. Right. Those are my favorite pizzas out. My favorite pizza in is literally like just a traditional cheese pizza, a 3-day ferment. I like to make my pizzas puffy. Like I've been doing that a lot lately. And that just means like I don't stretch. I might stretch a 12-inch pizza to 10 inches. So I get a little bit more dough on those edges. And it sears so nice in the home oven on the baking steel, and it's soft and chewy on the inside. It's crispy and soft at the same time, with just a nice blend of like a grande, low moisture mozzarella cheese, maybe a little fontina, fresh basil at the end. Man, that's really incredible. That's my favorite.
It's dinner time here on the East Coast, and I think my meal prep might have to wait till tomorrow because you're getting. But
right?
The other question around that would be: are there any chefs out there that you'd want to collaborate with, or my network, or people who are listening might be able to plug you into? Is there anyone you haven't met yet, or any chef you haven't worked with that you'd love to?
Man, I'd love to work with anybody that wants to work with me. That's kind of what I do every day, is just try to meet new people. I've only worked with a fraction of great chefs. Anybody that wants to collaborate with what we do or not, like, you know, we make a baking steel, and the reason we call it baking steel instead of pizza steel is because it does so much more than just pizza. My wife came up with that name, and we've since got a stovetop griddle version of it, but we can do smash burgers and steaks and breakfast foods and you name it. I'm the bottleneck in our business now. It's just as far as I just always go back to pizza because I know people can relate to it. But that's it. I mean, yeah. And as far as collaborations go, I love working with anybody, you know, micro influencers, anybody that loves food. Let's talk, you know, let's get together. Let's do a Zoom together or connect and see where it goes, because something always leads to something else. My mantra.
I love it. And you mentioned the stovetop, you mentioned smash burgers. I've seen other tools. Maybe this is how I first came across it in the classic pandemic fashion. I started making sourdough bread and really
awesome.
All that. And so that was probably, now that I think about it a little further, probably how I initially came across baking steel. But do you have any other exciting kind of recipes or ideas coming down the pike for how your all's product line or tools might be able to help?
That's a great question. No, you know, it's funny, dialing in, like, I teach Zoom classes every week with our customers. You know, if you're on our email list, I think this Wednesday I'm making English muffins live on the stovetop. So fun to make. It gives me a chance to connect with all of our customers if they're interested in making English muffins or learning. They have great Q&As afterwards. I'm always just trying to experiment things. You know, once we find something like a staple recipe like that, we try to really dial it in. And we've got a really good recipe for pizza dough, for English muffins, for smash burgers, for pancakes, right? The basic stuff we just really try to hone in on, and just keep going one day at a time.
I love that mantra. And I'd be curious, is the rest of your family as into baking as you are? Do your kids like to bake pizzas as well?
Not as much. No, in fact, they love the pizza. Especially my teenage son and his friends, they'll come over quite a bit now, which is great. They really love the bread. You know, the bread's something they can have almost daily. When you long ferment the bread, you know, it's sourdough, the flavor's there. The glutens break down. It's easier on our bodies to digest. So, and kids and bread, man, they eat a lot of bread. So that's something they really enjoy. And yeah, in fact, we made bread, my 12-year-old last week, we made bread together. I think we stuffed cheese inside of it. It was great.
That's right. I love the videos where it's very analog. I feel like it's ASMR-esque in a lot of ways. Where you pick up the baked bread, you tap it on the bottom, and obviously this is what all the bread related influencers post. But I feel like the way that and I guess I'd love to hear maybe how do you guys have a GoPro that you strap on your head, or how does that work to get that footage? Because I feel like, again, it's that ASMR feeling. I'm in the room with you.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I've got a tripod my son made. I'm gonna show it to you. It's really funny. It's, I was at our rental kitchen. We're building a home, but I was at a rental kitchen, and I was trying to get some top downs. He banged some 2x4s together for me, right? I hope you can see this. And this piece of wood that goes on top, right? And I'll take my cell phone and I'll just place it right here. So I'm getting a top down, and I've got a table right here by the window. I can bring this setup with me anywhere. It's kind of hokey looking, right? One, I can beat the shit out of it, so it doesn't matter. But two, it's so versatile. It's unbelievable. And I could even set up a phone this way so I can go directly into my oven. And I mic up my pizzas as I'm slicing them. And so you're gonna get that sound, which to me, like, that's really, right? It's a nice element to add into the video. I'm not making anything up. It's the natural sound of the crust being because it's crispy, right? So we kind of embellish it a little bit and show with just the ASMR, it's all natural. It's unbelievable. But that's how, anyway, this is my top-down setup.
I was always curious because the quality is so good. So I guess it's from your phone then, but the quality is so good, it doesn't seem like it's GoPro. So that's a little bit, that's a helpful behind the scenes footage there, and a really
right? Yeah.
definitely a creative tripod you have there. But maybe that's a next product line for the influencers of the future.
There you go, right?
Baking steel add-on accessory. And then maybe to that end, do you guys have any other exciting products or ideas coming down the pike that you'd be interested in?
Not major, no, nothing major. We're kind of dialing in. I'm trying, in fact, as a business person, I mean, maybe some accessories things like on the side, like some things that will accompany making the pizza making experience. We're working on a few items, more accessories. But as far as like the steel goes and the griddles go, we're really trying to dial that in. It's been a challenge manufacturing and the whole back end of my business, and we're really getting close to hitting some major goals as far as having our inventory, so anybody can get our product within 1 to 3 days anywhere in the country. So we're going to be as quick, if not faster, than Amazon. We're not on Amazon, so we're going to be competing with that super fast. So that's kind of things we're working on the back end. So just so we can allow for more growth in the future. So back end systems has been our thing the last year or two, I'd say.
Unbelievable. And to your point about goals or milestones that you guys are getting close to accomplish, what are you most looking forward to? What are you most excited about? What are you striving to achieve as we're now in the second half of 2023 somehow? Any goals or milestones you're marching towards?
Yeah, I got a couple of them. One, I'm going to start doing a little bit more video. That's like one thing that we're really trying to hone in on and dial and build up our classes and our videos, if you will. So like we do one a week right now, but we have plans to do a little bit more and make it a little bit more in depth on that front, which we're really excited about. I've also got my studio here in Grand Rapids, downtown Grand Rapids here. And I'm gonna be doing live classes again, which are really fun. And to me, it's like scale the unscalable. I'm gonna be doing 6 to 8 people in here once a week. I did this in Boston too for pizza classes. I won't be drinking wine, but drinking beer and learning about fermentation and making pizzas together. And again, we're going to just recreate that experience that we're trying to show people. And as a small business guy, to me, it's like scale the unscalable. And by the way, I'll have a video guy here, right? Shooting video, broadcasting that stuff out, which might be my son, in fact, which is really cool. He loves the video stuff, but yeah, so little things that are really fun. And so we got the space. We're scheduling for like maybe October for that. I can't believe it's July already. Isn't that crazy? I'm starting to think about fourth quarter.
No, it's great. And I really admire your all's familial nature and helping each other out, whether it be your dad and brother or you getting your son to help film. Really resonate with that and super excited to see what's to come with you guys. And so to that end, I just would, I know you've been gracious enough with your time, busy, hopefully have some pizzas getting in the oven here later for dinner for yourself, but would love to just give you the opportunity to round out any final comments, thoughts you might have for the audience, and we can go from there.
I think, anybody who's listening, to all your listeners, we all have these ideas, and just grasp it and go for it. Be afraid. That's okay to be afraid. That's human nature. Just go for it. You never know when lightning's going to strike. And it's not going to strike in your comfort zone. You need to get out of it, and you'll see a massive change, and you'll never look back.
And so I'm so appreciative of your time. I'll be sure to plug your socials, Baking Steel, in the show description, and really excited to see what's to come for you all. Let me know if I can ever be of any help to you, and hopefully
I will, man. Thank you.
In person sometime soon.
I'd love to. That'd be great, Arjan. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, man.